Hey guys, we're back. So we have a first-time guest on the program today. You want to give a little fun fact about yourself, Rose?
Oh, I don't know. I'm afraid to tell you. I want you to get to know me first.
Oh,
dear.
All right, don't judge her too much, folks. We'll see how she does. If she doesn't do well, we won't have her back. I promise you that. Our listeners are very important to us. So right now, we want to jump into our actual Constitution, or our current Constitution.
Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of break it down, but let's look at some of these vocabulary words first.
Mm-hmm. So right up here, guys, these are where your vocab words are located, as always. So you have preamble, you have federal government, enumerated powers, delegated powers, veto, limited powers, federalism, separation of powers, elastic clause, legislative branch, executive branch, judicial branch, electoral college, Supreme Court, republic, amend, popular sovereignty, checks and balances, ratify, bicameral, and ordain.
Okay, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to start off by just kind of explaining that the Constitution has really three chunks. It's got your preamble, it's got your articles, then it's got your amendments. So let's kind of talk about your preamble first. And if it's okay, I'll kind of discuss this part.
Absolutely.
All it is an introductory sentence, and it's basically explaining to the people why this document even exists. And so what we did in this paragraph that Halpin just highlighted is we took that sentence and broke it down. It says, we the people, and in parentheses, what I'm going to do is I'm telling you basically what each little piece means. So we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, meaning to make the country even better and better. Establish justice, meaning treating everyone fairly. Ensure domestic tranquility. That's like keeping the peace. Sorry, I saw your clicker there.
Mm-hmm.
Provide for the common defense. That means as a nation, if we are attacked, our country takes up for us, protects us. Promote the general welfare. What's the well-being for all the people? Let's make sure that we take care of that. Mm-hmm. And then secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, meaning let's basically protect those freedoms, and basically it's going to be protected for us and for the future generations. That's what posterity means. Okay, and then of course, do ordain means to order. We're ordering the government this. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So, guys, right here, we're going to go into what the articles actually mean. And I know Miss Rose has a really, really creative way that she tells people how to remember it. Rose, you want to jump in right now?
Yeah, and you can see this down here where it says lazy elephants jump slowly and sleep regularly. What you can do with this is you can tie the 7 articles that we're going to look at here in just a minute to each one of these letters. Mm-hmm. So lazy will tie in with Article 1, which is the legislative branch. You have the L for lazy and the L for legislative. And so as we go through here, you will see where these match up.
Exactly. Okay, so right here, as Miss Rose already kind of went into, Article 1, again, think lazy. Article 1 is about the legislative branch. So with the legislative branch, you need to know that it has 2 houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives. Now, I don't want you guys to get too worried about memorizing it all, because we are going to break down these in future lessons even more. So don't worry if you don't know everything about this right now. But just a couple quick things. Number 1, when you see this enumerated or delegated powers, these are powers that are specifically listed in the Constitution. The Constitution says, you know what? As part of the legislative branch, you are going to be able to do this, this, and this. And again, right here, you can see what some of those are. To declare war, to collect taxes, to raise and support a military, to coin money, to borrow money, to regulate interstate commerce, to establish post offices, to grant patents and copyrights, and to create lower courts. So again, that's what the legislative branch is allowed to do. Now, there's also this term right here that we see, and it's called implied powers. And what implied powers are, they're powers that aren't specifically listed, but they are given to the legislative branch to make sure they can do all the things that we talked about up there. There are things that they're going to have to do to make sure those happen.
So I kind of like to explain it this way.
Yeah.
If you're at the top of the ladder, and let's say at the very top of the ladder, I need to get to the top, but I can't quite get there. I might have to create a couple of steps that will help me get to my destination.
Well, that's
and that's
good.
basically exactly what this elastic clause is. It's basically like we're stretching things just a little bit so that we can actually do the enumerated powers.
That's really good. All right, guys. So right here, Article 2 is the executive branch. And the word that we want you guys to associate with this is elephants. So right now we started off with lazy, then we have elephants right here. Again, executive branch. So right here, this establishes the office of the president and the vice president. The qualifications to be president are you have to be 35 years old, you have to be born in the United States, and you have to have lived here for 14 years.
Now, last chapter we did talk about, we kind of touched in on the Electoral College, and basically what that is it's a group of people that we basically elect, or we basically allow them to go in and vote for the person that we think they're going to vote for. And we'll get into that a little bit more. Rose, you want to jump in?
Yeah, so let's go to Article 3, the Judicial Branch, and that ties in with the lazy elephants jump. Okay, so the Judicial Branch basically is our court system, and it starts off with the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in the land. And they will settle all kinds of disputes, and we're going to get into that in another chapter. But just know that the Supreme Court is set up by the Judicial Branch in Article 3.
Okay, so Article 4, remember, lazy elephants jump slowly. So the slowly is going to be Article 4S for the states. And basically, it really is to state that citizens of each state enjoy those same rights. Under the U.S. Constitution, everybody is granted the same specific rights. Also, in our Constitution, it is very specific in stating that we're not a democracy, but we are a republic. So we'll be able to get into a little bit difference. We'll kind of explain that difference to you. States cannot enter treaties, making alliances, or make money. So when you have the governor of California going and making these big, huge trade agreements with China, sometimes that could be an issue.
Okay. So Article 5, guys, is the amending process. It's how to amend it. Now, you have to know that it's harder to pass an addition to the Constitution than just an ordinary law. Specifically, it needs to be approved by 2/3 of each House of Congress, which again is the House of Representatives and it's the Senate, and then it has to be ratified by 3/4 of the states.
Okay, so Article 6 is the supreme law of the land. So we have lazy elephants jump slowly and sleep. So sleep is the supreme law of the land. And basically all that is saying is that the United States Constitution and any federal laws that are passed are the supreme law of the land. Nothing can go above them. Nothing can go against them. And like we've mentioned before, we'll get into this in more depth later.
So with the Article 7, that's ratification. And typically people don't even need to ever really look at this article, only unless you wanted to see the whole process of how this was originally approved or accepted. As far as our U.S. Constitution. Now, when we move on to the principles of the Constitution, here is where it kind of breaks things down into some key principles.
Exactly. And if I could jump in there really quick, you have to remember, guys, they had the people had a lot of bad experiences. First of all, they had a government that had oppressed them before that, so they were worried about the central government being too powerful. But at the same time, when they had the Articles of Confederation, it didn't work. So they didn't want the states to be too powerful either. So they created these principles of the Constitution to make sure the central government was powerful, but also that there were certain checks that were put on them from becoming too powerful. And right here, a couple of those that you're going to see are popular sovereignty, limited government, federalism, separation of powers, and checks and balances.
Okay, so for popular sovereignty, that basically means that the people rule. And if you look at the very first words of the Constitution, it says, we the people. That's very specific and on purpose. So the people rule. They're the supreme and highest authority of the country, although oftentimes we don't feel that way. Okay, what about the second one, limited government, Rose?
Okay, so limited government is, yes, we have this very strong national government, but the only powers that they have are the ones that are actually listed in the Constitution, along with the implied part of it, of course. So you have to remember that the states are going to have some powers too, but and we'll get into that in depth later. But once again, they're limited. They can't do just anything that they want to do.
Okay. The next one we guys have is federalism. Now, federalism is just the dividing of power between the federal government and the state government. Now, what you need to think about when you're thinking, well, what belongs to the federal government? Issues that affect the nation as a whole, those belong to the federal government. On the other hand, if they're just affecting a specific state, they're going to go to the states.
So I have an example for this. Think about an airplane, and you'll see me doing this in class. On one end, when England was basically telling us what to do, we basically looked at that as the king having all the power. Once we got the Articles of Confederation and became our own country, then we went the total opposite to where states ended up having all the power. Well, we realized there were issues with that. And so what did we do? We decided to kind of split it down the middle, and we divided that power. So again, when you see the word federalism, is the division between federal government getting some powers and the state government getting some powers.
Mm-hmm. So this next one we got right here, guys, is we have separation of powers. And Rose, I'm really sorry I didn't mean to jump the gun and cut you off right there.
That's okay.
Yeah, why don't you jump in?
Okay, so with separation of powers, we've got three branches that are mentioned in Articles 1, 2, and 3. We have the legislative, executive, and judicial branch. Okay, so each one of them has their own powers. This is based on Baron de Montesquieu, which we have looked at before. So this is just making sure that your federal government doesn't become too strong. They balance each other out, and they can only go so far with this. And so really it's just to protect the people really from having the government think one branch of government thinking that it can do more than another branch. Okay, so let's move on.
Okay, good. So the last one right here, guys, is checks and balances. Basically what this is saying is each branch is given several powers essentially to check the other branches. The two other branches. The overall aim of these is to make sure that one branch isn't too powerful over the other branch.
In other words, thinking about this, stay in your lane.
Exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, we've got examples, but just a prime example could be that Congress wants to pass some crazy law, but they're not going to get it passed if the president vetoes it unless they can override the president. But no matter what, even if a bill passes and makes it into a law, if it is brought up in a court case in front of the U.S. Supreme Court, they could actually deem that law unconstitutional.
Yeah, so they all essentially have their own powers. That's a really good example. I like that you didn't just include one of the examples, you included all of the branches. That's pretty cool. All right. So next one right here, guys, we're going to be talking about ratification. So what you have to understand is there was a fight to actually make this Constitution, to get it ratified. A big, big fight between two major parties, the Federalist and the Anti-Federalist. And for any of you Hamilton fans out there, I am a diehard Hamilton fan, this is a huge, huge chunk of that because one of the people trying to get it ratified was Alexander Hamilton.
So basically it came down to this. The Constitution was written, it had the preamble, and it had the articles. But the Anti-Federalists felt like it did not address the needs of the people. It wasn't securing their liberties, their rights, their freedoms. Mm-hmm. The Federalists were like, well, yes, it does. We've set up this government. It's good to go. People's rights are protected within the way we set it up. Anti-Federalists, after being burned by King George III and the history that we had before, were like, no, we must have these freedoms protected. And so there was a struggle between them. There was even a book written to try and have people look at it a certain way. So the Federalist Papers.
Well, and also in regards to the Federalists, they were scared that if they actually listed the rights in the Constitution and left something out, does that mean you don't get your rights? So that is going to be a direct relation as to why the 10th Amendment was specifically added in the Bill of Rights.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see that this is really a very important argument. And so what actually happened was that they came to a compromise. The Federalists said, look, we have got to get this Constitution signed, and we need to do that now. Go ahead and we'll send it out, let the states ratify it, and as soon as you do that, we will add the Bill of Rights to it. And so they said, okay, the Constitution was ratified, and then after that, the Bill of Rights were added.
Mm-hmm. And we want to clarify, too, the Bill of Rights are just those first 10 amendments we have in our Constitution, which we are going to go over in great detail in later chapters. And also, this is my fault, guys. I forgot to elaborate on this. They needed 9 of the 13 states to agree to it in order for it to become ratified. So that is the numbers. Anything else?
Okay.
Well, we have 2 more key terms, guys. We have the word Constitution, which is just a blueprint for how our government's going to work. And we also have articles, which is, again, one of the 3 main portions of the Constitution. Now, I want to clarify one thing really quick that I said that I want to just make sure we're all on the same page. You can still become president if you're born on a military base because that's still technically U.S. soil.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So I just want to make sure that's very clear. All right?
Okay.
We look forward to talking to you guys again. See you soon.